Hello and welcome to another edition of Just Unsecure. Today's main topic is going to be blockchain and identity management. We have a great guest for you, and trust me, you will definitely enjoy this episode. Don't forget, subscribe and see you real soon. Welcome to Just Unsecure series, information and cybersecurity channel as it relates to Africa. We are basically enthusiast and evangelist in information security and cyber security. Today, we have a great guest for you, but obviously you know already, I'm your host, Babs. My co-host is unfortunately not here with us today, but yeah, he will be with us next time. So now let's see, we're getting a great guest here, and he's going to talk about blockchain and identity management, focusing more from an African perspective. So yeah, let's get him in. Hello. Like I was saying to everyone on the channel that we have a great guest today. His name is Godswill Mbaucha. He's a pioneer in identity management and also delved into blockchain, but he's got, over 10, 15 years experience, but I'll let him do the introduction himself. So it's not like if I'm putting everything on him. So Mr. Godswill, how would you like to introduce yourself to our fans?
I think you've already said much there is to it. So my name is Godswill Mbaucha. I'm an engineering manager and a software engineer. I was involved in the identity management system of Nigeria. So I would say I have a good grasp of the identity management landscape in the country and identity management in general. And I also have interest in a whole lot of things, and one of which is blockchain, right? So over 15 years experience in software development and experiences that cut across multiple sectors. So that is just...
I didn't want to say too much, because I know you're well versed, especially from the engineering perspective. So thank you for coming on the this particular episode. I think most people want to generally just talk about identity management. I don't know, at least from a Nigerian perspective, I know it's a major issue, but from your experience, identity management, what is it and what is the bone of contention that people really, especially from an African perspective, that we see, why is it a problem for us? Let me put it that way.
I think the problem with, first, identity management is just how do we assert one's identity? How do I tell who someone is? And several organizations have basically about the same way of asserting identity, and that way of asserting identity is collecting information about you and expecting you to supply those information for you to be able to assert your identity. I go to Facebook to use Facebook, I create an account, and after supplying my personal information, I come back tomorrow, wants to use Facebook. They ask me some questions to be sure I am who I am before allowing me use the service. So that is identity management in general, whether be it using it on Facebook, on LinkedIn, or identity management in the government sector, as used by national identity. So it's all the same thing. How do we identify individuals? Identify them to be able to issue them service. Now, the problem with identity management in Nigeria is the same problem with identity management globally. And it is the fact that our data is centralized. We have multiple identity data lying around. You go to Facebook, you have your identity data there. You go to LinkedIn, you go to GitHub, so you have your identity data lying around. And then those identity data are open to, it could fall in the wrong hands, for example. Every year we hear so many reports of identity theft. We hear millions of identity data lost or identity breaches. We also have the problem that the people who have this data can decide how to use this data without our consent. So I think that is the problem with identity management, the centralized nature of identity management, the fact that we have to duplicate identity in multiple places, the fact that this identity data could be used, there could be data breach, and this identity data could be used for purposes other than what they were intended for. That is the problem of identity management at the global scale, and that is also the problem in Nigeria.
So what would be a engineering solution to be able to curb or have a structured identity management? What do you think the technical solution would be?
So first of all, there have been so many policies around how data should be used, both in the African sector and globally. There have been so many organizations that try to enforce some kind of compliance. Those compliance guide how you use data. And those compliance also talks about how you protect data under your care. Because basically this data has to be protected, and this data would have to be used only for the reasons that they were given, right? But today, there has been so much people clamoring for self-sovereignty that my data shouldn't lie in these server databases. I should be able to have control of my data. And there are people proposing blockchain as a possible solution for this. So the problem we want to solve is, one, I do not want my data lying around in multiple databases, because lying around in multiple databases is a potential point for failure, potential point for data breach, potential point of violation. I want self-sovereignty, the ability to own my data and then decide how to use my data. And people have been proposing blockchain as a possible solution to this problem, added to some other policies enacted to guide this.
Okay, but how would blockchain solve that? Because from my own knowledge, blockchain for most of our viewers out there is a DLT, which is a distributed ledger technology, also known as blockchain. But how would it solve this issue you've raised?
Okay, so the thing is, as I said, the first issue is the problem with centralization. Now, when we talk about blockchain and identity management, we are not talking about something very big. We are talking about something real and actual, something that has been implemented in multiple places. There are countries in the forefront of this that we can understand and learn from. So you are right, the blockchain is a distributed ledger, right? Ledger distributed, containing data that are very much immutable, right?
Yeah.
And then with the process around it in order to authenticate or verify this data. So let us assume that NIMC had decided to go the blockchain route. Now, I am not sure about how palatable that is to government, but of course we have government who has implemented this and have found it to be quite efficient. So NIMC could decide to store data on a distributed ledger. NIMC could be one of those managing this ledger. Other government organizations could also be managing this ledger. This ledger would contain identity data. So what that means, let me paint a scenario, just a scenario that a layman would understand. NIMC build technologies around blockchain. And one of what they had built for us, for example, is an identity wallet.
Okay, yes.
Every Nigerian is expected to download their identity wallet and install it on their device. And as soon as I download this identity wallet, the first thing I will need to do is to create my profile.
Yeah.
I provide my name, provide my address, provide my date of birth, and all what's not. Provide my photograph, snap my photograph, provide even my fingerprint if possible. And then after I've done that, I probably go to the nearest NIMC center with a document to back up my claims, to back up what my name is, my date of birth, which is the normal NIMC process. NIMC looks at those data, verify those data against the document you've supplied, and NIMC now decides to sign that transaction. When NIMC signs that transaction, it writes it to a smart contract, right? Mm-hmm. And of course, that smart contract is distributed, right? It is distributed because we have other organizations holding that smart contract who have access to those nodes as well. And so the data is not just in NIMC, but it's distributed. So that is a very layman, naive way. There are so many other thoughts around how this data will be verified, but this is completely a naive view of
I think you already talked on the next topic, because I'm looking at things like the PII, privacy data. How, in a blockchain scenario, would you be able to delete entirely someone's data? So let's say I want to be forgotten, because obviously I'm looking at it like in Europe you have what they call the GDPR, and it's you have the right to be forgotten. If somebody, like if you have a data of a national of a dual citizen, for example, yeah, and all of a sudden he says, oh, I want my data in an identity management system to be deleted thoroughly, can that be possible within the system you've described?
Okay, so first, thank you very much, Roberto, for that question. That's an excellent question. First, let me start with also giving a little more detail into how blockchain work in identity management. And that way we're able to understand this better. First of all, if I use Bitcoin, for example, I have a Bitcoin wallet and I send money to you, Babatunde, it's a distributed, publicly distributed ledger. I'm able to go to the blockchain and see that there's this transaction, money was transferred from Gospel account to Babatunde account. It's there, it's not hidden. If I transfer Ethereum, that is the same case. I'm able to go to the Ethereum blockchain and see these transactions, right? Because it's publicly available ledger. Now, our identity data cannot be like that. We cannot store our core identity data in that manner. We cannot store Babatunde's name, his date of birth, his address, so that anyone could access it on the blockchain. Okay. If we do it like that, that has already negated our privacy concern, and that has violated all known security standards. So there is so the actual data is not what is stored in the blockchain. What is actually stored in the blockchain is cryptographic hash. Now, there have been so many algorithms put forward on how this would work. One of the most popular that have been seen to be efficient is what we call zero knowledge proof. And the idea is that how do I prove who I am without actually revealing much data to you? Now, there's this blockchain called Zcash, for example, and I think Monero, if I'm correct, they implemented this zero knowledge proof. And so when you go to their blockchain, you don't see the actual transaction, the actual data. You see a cryptographic hash representing that transaction. So the first thing I'm trying to clear out is that people's identity data are not publicly, if we are imbibing blockchain and identity management, we are not pushing people's identity data on the blockchain. We're actually just pushing a cryptographic hash. Now, at least that would address your concern with regards to the questions you've asked. Now, another thing is that there will have to be a complete process for revocation, right? People will be able to revoke their data. Now, that revocation process, you are actually just revoking those hash. You are not, your data is never in the blockchain. Your real bare, hello. Yeah, so basically that is it. I'm not sure if I answered the question.
Yeah, you answered it perfectly. So maybe moving on. What are the security implications you see in adopting blockchain and identity management from your experience, if there's any at all? But what are the security implications you foresee?
So when we talk about security, the security concern is actually on the current centralized system, right? NIMC, Facebook, Google, and the rest of it has implemented several security features to ensure that our data are safe, but yet none can guarantee the safety of our data. Every year there is a data breach. Facebook just last year, over 500 million identity data were found on the black web, or people's data were found on the black web. And Facebook tried to explain that away, but the damage has been done. Now, this is not just Facebook. This is virtually all big organizations have been guilty of data breach, right? So NIMC has really done so well, but we have no guarantee that something will not happen in the next 1 to 5, 10 years, right? Because you say that a system that is safe or secure is a system that you've shut down, provided it is online, connected to the internet, then there has to be some. So now this is the problem that blockchain addresses. Now, blockchain is a technology that has been in use for the past 10 years. We've matured, we've seen how this technology is. Some mistakes have been made and have they been corrected. As it is now, we can say to a large extent that blockchain have been used to secure transactions. So our identity data on the blockchain, at least for one thing, we are sure that we have data that to a large extent is very much safe. Now, let me also explain to you how I see these things. As I had earlier mentioned, your actual data is not stored in the blockchain. A cryptographic hash is stored on the blockchain. Then there has to be an algorithm to determine how those data could be used. So data sovereignty means I have access to my data. I own my data. So maybe I have this wallet from NIMC. After creating my profile, let's assume my phone has lost. I have this wallet, a new phone. I log into NIMC app. I'm able to provide my fingerprint. Somewhere it goes to the blockchain and able to retrieve my details based on my fingerprint, because maybe those details on the blockchain is a hash, or maybe a cryptographic hash. I'm using hash on a vague way, right? I know that some people see hash as something irreversible, right? But maybe there's a way of reversing those identity data when I supply my fingerprint, right? So only myself providing my fingerprint on a NIMC authorized wallet is able to see those data. Now, again, this is very vague, right? Just a layman's way of explaining this. So what I'm saying is that first, there is so much security when we go about that approach. You are not scared of a data being hacked, because those information, to be able to hack my data, then you probably need my fingerprint. To hack Babatude's data, you probably need Babatude's fingerprint. And so that makes it very much complicated, right? Again, this is just how I imagine it. There are so many other ways of implementing this. So I do not, so security, I see this as a very much secure approach of managing identity. Now, I don't care about NIMC being down tomorrow, because there are nodes distributed, managed by several government entity and possibly also by private sector, who probably make some money, a little bit of money on each verification. Maybe NIMC keep the bulk of the money for the verification, and all these nodes, whenever they verify transaction, also have a little bit percentage that they keep. So I'm not worried about NIMC being down. If NIMC is down, it is distributed, and so I'm able to authenticate my transaction or verify my identity in various other
okay, without so much focusing.
So these are some,
without so much focusing on a particular organization, do you think the blockchain, especially from Africa as it is an enabler in the identity management space? Or, and let me even put it clear, let me put it like this. The technology was, the blockchain technology was brought about by, what's his name again? Forgotten his name. Satoshi Nakamoto. Yes. Yeah. Sorry about if I pronounced it badly. Yeah. So the technology is there. Are you saying there might not be an inherent technology that breaks or makes blockchain insecure later in the future? Because if we put all our eggs in one basket, because blockchain is a new technology now, so everybody's, oh yeah, is all secure. 10 years down the line, we can see the process, or even have, again, that this, I'm jumping lots of things, but you said lots of ledgers. You could have an insecure ledger, whereby an insecure ledger gets information, because how do you ensure a ledger is secure? Every other ledger you get. There can be a ledger that is just there just to collect information. It doesn't want to do anything else. Yeah. So how do you verify? So I've asked you lots of questions, so just take your time.
Yeah. Okay, so let me start from the first. So right now you have to understand, your first question is, we go into this blockchain and find out there are serious potential data breach issue or vulnerability, serious potential vulnerability.
Exactly.
Yeah, that is one of your questions, which is a valid question. Now, the issue is that the current way we manage our data is flawed, and we've been using. So now you are worried about the potential of seeing a flaw in the blockchain. But right now, there are a very huge, obvious flaw in the way we manage our data.
Yeah.
The centralized system, having our data duplicated, is flawed. Every day they have a data breach, right? Yeah. So we are moving away from a completely flawed system to another system, which to a large extent is secured, but you are only scared about future vulnerability. So I want you to understand that we are moving from an obviously vulnerable, flawed system, right? So that is one. Now, secondly, to your second question, again, I had mentioned that those ledgers are public ledger. Anybody can access it. It is not confidential. It is not a problem. There are no vulnerability there because they are publicly, there is no need to hack them. I don't need to go and hack Bitcoin. I could just go and point all the last 100 transactions that have happened on the Bitcoin. It is not confidential, right? The problem, the security is in the immutability. You are not able, the difficulty in altering those data and faking a transaction, right? So now in those ledger, you have so many other nodes right now. Those nodes cannot, having those nodes, those data, again, as I mentioned earlier, what is in those ledger are not your personal information. They are cryptographic hashes. A cryptographic hash that is of no value without the individual who owns those data. You probably need the individual who owns those data to be able to make sense of that hash. That hash on its own amounts to nothing, right? I don't know if that addresses it.
Beautiful. I think you answered my questions. Like a true genius and engineer that you are. So I will, because we are limited for time. I know we could go on and on and on. I want to ask if people wanted to know how to get into the blockchain technology or engineering within technology, or basically software engineering like you are, what would be your advice to them?
Yeah, so if you want to go into software engineering or blockchain or identity management, so currently information seems to be quite cheap right now, right? There are so many, all it needs is the willingness and the desire and the enthusiasm and the interest. We have so many resources online that you could very much utilize, right? There are so many online resources that help guide you on how to build capability in this. And if you happen to have a mentor who all he does is direct and shepherd and guide you, then that would be very great. Wonderful tutorials on YouTube, on Udemy, on all these websites. And then you have someone to mentor you. It is said that some of the great men we have that learn much of what they know via reading, right? So you just have to read and use it from there.
Okay, and the last one, what would you tell your younger self if you had the opportunity to go back?
Like 10 years ago?
Well, if that's what your younger self was like, what would you have done differently? To know what you know now, especially in engineering and blockchain, and if you could do something differently, your younger self, what would you tell your younger self to do to be at the forefront?
So if I knew what I knew now 10 years ago, I would do what virtually every other person who understands blockchain would do. I probably would buy 1,000 Bitcoin.
I remember when Bitcoin came, I bought one, but I lost my phone. Now I can't find it. Anyway, thank you very much, Mr. Goswell. We really appreciate your time coming. We know you're a very busy person, so we really appreciate it. And hopefully we look forward to also bringing you on board next time when my co-host has opportunity to meet you. I'm sure we missed this. He definitely wanted to be here, but couldn't be. So thank you very much. And, we'll reach out to you again. And to all the viewers, I hope you enjoyed the session. And if you like it, don't forget, subscribe. You can email us at juteam@justunsecure.com. And if you have anything you really want us to talk about, like all the fans and subscribers that told us they want to know more about blockchain, we've done this for you and we'll do more for you. Thank you very much and see you all soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Gazo.
Take care. Take care. Bye-bye.